Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I have some exciting news for you. I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons' massive 2023 accomplishments. So Hasbro started out with a really rough year. The 2023 OGL crisis, the 2023 Manic Panic. People were like, "Oh my goodness, Hasbro wants to change a legal document they completely own and control the product they own," and people just got really upset. And it was a thing. It was definitely a thing, and it was an extremely rough start to the year. Right now, the one good thing is I think they've really done a great job managing that. But one of the things that massively helped Hasbro, and I think one of the things that massively helps Hasbro and their guardianship of Dungeons and Dragons all the time, is just their huge momentum. I don't think people really get a sense of, there's about 50 to 100 people that are full-time employees of Dungeons & Dragons. That is massively scaled down from when Gary Gygax was running TSR, and at one point they had 600 full-time employees with like company cars, right? Like, it was like they had 600 full-time employees, and many of their full-time employees, they were giving them company cars. Like, the money was flowing in, but the money was flowing out just as fast. So Hasbro, people complain constantly about Hasbro, but they really are incredible guardians of Dungeons and Dragons. And one of the things that they've done, which is truly unprecedented, is they have a team of 50 to 100 full-time employees. It depends on how you count, right? But there are no more than 100 full-time employees on Dungeons & Dragons, and there are no less than 50 at this point, right? People who make their living full-time, like get up, drink their coffee at the office, put on their pants and actually go to a desk and build Dungeons & Dragons. There's 50 people in the world who do that. And by the way, there's no other tabletop role-playing game in the world that has that kind of scale on full-time actual employees, except maybe Modiphius. Modiphius is firing on all cylinders. The one thing that's interesting there is they are an international brand, and in America, there's nobody that even remotely competes with Hasbro. So they had a rough start to the year, but they just had a huge accomplishment that I'm really excited about, and that is critical acclaim well after the release of the film for Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. So Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves was a tremendous attempt at an American blockbuster. It only made $207 million. It failed to be an American blockbuster, but it was a real attempt, right? And it had Chris Pine, and he played Edgin Darvis, and then Holga Kilgore was played by Michelle Rodriguez. Simon Almer was played by Justice Smith. Sophia Lillis played Doric, and yeah, I think I might have gotten Edgin's last name wrong, but yeah, tremendous, and they just did a really amazing job of bringing these characters to life. And this is incredibly kind. There's a lot of talk right now about image, like what is your image allowed to be used in a certain place, and all of these actors allowed their image, right? Like Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, their image from top to bottom, right, is canon Dungeons & Dragons forever because of what was brought, because of D&D Beyond, right? It's absolutely fantastic. But what really excites me was months after its release, a major movie reviewer, his name is Dan Murrell. I think he's one of the best in the business. He specifically focuses on the business of Hollywood. So he does real movie reviews. He has an every week channel. He works very hard on his reviews, extremely professional, one of the best in the business at reviewing movies, right? By the way, I think the best movie reviewer in the world is Grace Randolph. Dan Murrell is definitely top 10. I highly recommend Fish Jelly. Really fantastic. You gotta check them out because they have hundreds of reviews that are all spoiler full spoiler, right? And I'll tell you right now, at this point, I can't even listen to a non-spoiler review. I think like, what was the point? Like, you gave me half your opinion. I'm half excited. Like, it doesn't do anything for me, right? But these guys do a tremendous job. Dan Murrell, right? He has this like fun with charts section. He is really fantastic. He's a real movie reviewer, and he did his best of 2023. And Dungeons and Dragons was right on his top 10 movies of 2023 from the first half of the year, right? Like, which is extremely exciting, and it's a real recognition of what Hasbro did, which is unprecedented in the history of tabletop role-playing games. And it's being recognized. And what really excites me about Dan Murrell giving a top 10 movie review, saying this is one of the best 10 movies of the year, and be clear, right? Over 150 movies have been already released at that point, right? And so, he's picking from 150 movies and saying this is one of the best movies released in 2023. And what I really love about this is Dan Murrell don't know nothing about D&D, right? He is completely outside of the Dungeons and Dragons fan base, right? And I think that's what's really exciting about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, is it is a tremendous film, and it's there, and people are going to continue to find it, and they're going to be delighted. And that movie is doing work. Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Sophia Lillis, and Justice Smith are doing work for Dungeons and Dragons. And every single movie that one of those rock stars, launches into, and continues to produce and continue to do, right? That brings the name of Dungeons and Dragons higher, and it keeps Dungeons and Dragons into the conversation. And the reality is, its peers, right? Paizo and and Arcane Library and even Games Workshop, they're just not doing the same. They're way behind, and they're not cutting a swath through the non-fans, right? And so I was just really excited to see Dan Murrell. So I just listen to Dan Murrell because I'm a huge movie fan, right? But when the things I love converge, movies converge, and Dungeons and Dragons converge, it is incredibly exciting. And I just could not be more excited and really honored that Dan Murrell would include it on his list. And it wasn't a gimme, and he just loved the film. And he also called out Regé Jean Page for Zank Yendar, right? And really called out what a stellar performance he had done, and I totally agree. I think Regé Jean Page just did a tremendous job. So here's Hasbro really doing what it's done since 1999, being the best Guardian Dungeons and Dragons has ever had, and really just pushing back against the culture and saying, you guys might have complaints, but we're working hard and we're delivering. And they truly are, and they are really outpacing all of their rivals in the industry. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and tell me what you think of Dan Murrell's channel, what you think of Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, now that we've had a few months to think about it. And I just can't wait to hear what you have to say. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.